January 2018, my bike trip to Fujairah. I left out of Abu Dhabi early in the morning, drove through some really quiet, peaceful highway, 2-lane, which was nice, separated 2-lane. Little ranches, it looked like, along the foothills of the mountains. Stopped to get some gas. Locals getting some food and filling up. Notice the bathrooms don't have any toilet paper, but there is a little hand washer or a spray nozzle. I'll let you guess what that's for. Anyway, they're real big on using roundabouts here. There is no left turns, everything goes to the right. And they have them even on highways. On the way back, I ran into a 5-lane interstate roundabout. But this is just as I was entering the hills. See a lot of gravel and tore up rock up in the hillsides as they built in power lines and roads. And yes, be sure you look out for the goats. There's a lot of goat encampments along this highway. I guess they must be easier to raise here, like at that little place, rather than camels or more out in the wide open desert. Weather was perfect. Really was a beautiful ride. Nice and quiet. Here as I come around the corner, you can see the Gulf of Oman start to open up out there, and the town of Fujairah showing itself right in front of me. Just a couple of skyscrapers on the right. There's a lot of building going on everywhere. And here you can see a bunch of homes, which are pretty large homes that multiple generations live in, is my understanding. But the impressive thing about this shot, and I pulled over to take the picture, I don't know how well you can see it, but the horizon was just riddled with tankers, oil tankers. And this city here of Fujairah, as I get down into it, is just miles and miles of tanks. And again, always be on the lookout for goats. Pulling up to a rarity around here. As I said before, they use roundabouts. So to have a street light where you actually could turn left was, it's not something you see every day. This Fujairah place must really be on the cutting edge. If it wasn't for the construction fences, you could see the Gulf of Oman to the right. And of course some of the buildings downtown. As we go start entering the tanker section they told you about. I decided not to let that roll on forever. I want to cut that short. Like I said, I drove for, I bet you it was 30-40 minutes on this highway that had nothing but construction and tankers on either side. Pretty impressive though, amount of oil that must move through here, probably for the whole world. It's quite a bit. The United Arab Emirates has 9.5 million people, and only 11% of those are actually Emiratis. 58% are Indian, and Pakistani, and Bangladesh. 16% are Filipino, and it's one of the world's largest migrations for people to come here to work and to create a new life for themselves. A lot of people looked at Dubai and the Emirates as this great emerald city with all the modern skyscrapers and buildings possible, but with that kind of 60% of the population almost being from some other area, they have areas like this that spring up around the sides of all these towns. And it's like going into Pakistan or India or something amongst all of these fancy buildings and skyrises. In 1922, the British government became aware of a potential for development of natural resources, such as oil. They developed the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, APOC, which later became British Petroleum, or BP, as we see on our gas stations all over. They had a 23, almost 24% share in the exploration of the local areas back in 1935. But that was what the rulers at the time, and they banded together, and those 7 tribes or emirates formed the United Arab Emirates, 1971. It's kind of interesting that Bahrain and Qatar declined to join. Since foreigners make up 99% of the workforce, it's good to have a connection with home, and it can be seen everywhere from all corners of the world. But kind of a Indian, Pakistani sort of a flavor does seem to be prevalent, with Asian probably right behind that. Migrant workers are excluded from collective labor rights, and trade unions are not allowed. Those who protest can be deported. In my own experience, they've been extremely tolerant and welcoming to other cultures. I mean, look at a whole nother world built up around their own, within their country. Like this one. Then as I exit the tunnel, come around the corner to see the Gulf of Oman, advertisements for new resorts being planned and put up. Really aren't any waves to speak of, but beautiful water. A lot of family and people camping along the waterfront. As I drove up and down, I seen a lot of camping and campsites, and people even just spending the day with their van and SUV down by the coast. You can see the resorts off to the right as I get closer. The ruggedness of the mountains there. And looks like there's a complex of several resorts here. After the resorts, there's another big beach area down here for camping and such. There's a fountain here in the middle of the roundabout with sharks. They were spitting water out of their mouths. That was kind of clever. Looks like there's a big rally being held down there on the other side of the fence for campers. And over against the mountains you can see, after looking it up, it's a mosque, but it looks like a huge complex of very attractive period buildings, but it's one of their mosques. Beautiful wood doors on all the property and turrets. And then finally turn in and greeted by security here to the hotel. Really nice place. Good deal. Nice place to relax, as I spent the night before leaving town the next day. Well, the next day was another bright, sunshiny day, filled up with gas. Got ready for the ride home. As I headed up the coast, you could look over and see a number of camps set up. It looked like more than being set up for just one night, though. They almost looked like it was little pieces of property. They posted their tents and built their own little yards around them. They were all over the place, right there in front of the water. I don't know if it was a special party or maybe a vacation property. They just set up a tent and threw a fence around an area and called it yours down by the beach. I don't never know. Never seen such a thing. Of course, this sign does point out that it's for family only, which even that is a pretty good deal. Nice, safe place to bring your family so you're not pitching a tent right next to all the parties, I suppose. Then I seemed to turn away from the coast, back into the mountainous terrain, if you will. It certainly isn't mountains like the Rockies or the Alps. They're sure a lot more rugged than like Appalachian, but they're really not much bigger than the bluffs back in Nebraska. I like this aerial shot showing where I'm at. About to squirt out through the hills into the desert again. It's always surprising to see homes built right along an interstate like that in such rugged terrain, but I suppose you find the same thing in America or anywhere else. for that fact. Home is wherever you're at and wherever you were raised, I suppose. You can start to see the haze out on the horizon as I come out of the mountains and into the desert again. You can see the tracks as people go off for their dune bashing out into the desert sand. Doesn't seem to be any laws against it. If there is, they put up a fence. Otherwise, your people seem to be welcome to go wherever. I got a short trip into Abu Dhabi for tonight, and then I'll go back to Ruwais the next day. In a way, there's something peaceful about the red sand and the wide open spaces. Close, you can see some camel over there to the right, just hanging out free in the desert. That wraps it up. Ride to Fujairah.